in the Southeast needs to be addressed. That, for me, is the first thing. The quality has been abysmal for the most part. There are exceptions, of course. But it seems to me we need to retool our political leadership. Our quality of civic leadership is also in need of addressing. But you see, as I like to say, in Igbo land, in Igbo language, there are two words that are very important. One is ochichi, governance. The other is ochichile or chichiri, darkness. When you don't get ochichi right, you enter ochichiri. Okay? Now, and this is really where we are. We failed. The best thing in governance that's happened to the Southeast or the Eastern region was Michael Okpara. And Michael Okpara left office with the coup of 1966. Since then, we've struggled. Yeah, we've had Sambakwe, Jimoboto, but our governance has been quite poor, broadly speaking. We've got to rediscover governance as a pathway to respectability. And so that's the one thing I think we've got to fix. And it's not just governors, it's also representatives at the national level, Senate, House of Representatives. The quality of, and it used to be that the quality of governance, of quality of representation in our communities was something we took seriously. It's no longer the case. We've got to address that. The second thing, in my view, is we've got to see development as bigger than our respective states. You know, and that's why I'm not one of those people who goes arguing for new states. I don't think we can take the same strategy to development as some other parts of Nigeria. Say northern Nigeria, for instance. Look, we have 29,500 square kilometers in the southeast. That's all we've got. That is smaller than Kogi State in terms of territory. Now, 29,500 square kilometers, that's 5 states. Niger State, with 23 local government areas, is 76,800 square kilometers. So that's more than 2.5 times the size of all of Southeast. What does that mean? And meanwhile, Niger State has fewer local government areas than Imo State, which has barely 5,000 square kilometers. Now, Imo State at 5,000 square kilometers has exactly the same number of local government areas as Borno State with 71,000 square kilometers. That's 27 local government areas. It tells you something. It's not all about land. But if we have 29,500 square kilometers, you know, that makes us about the size of southern Kaduna. And it makes us just marginally bigger than Oyo State with 28,500 square kilometers. That means we can do something different. We can model a different pathway to development in the southeast. Pave over every blade of grass we want to pave over. Create El Dorado in the southeast. Nigeria will come here and tell you, come and replicate this in the rest of Nigeria.
Or leave you alone.
Or leave you alone. Either way, you are in business. And can we do it? We can. But to do that, we need a regional strategy. We cannot have one state going it alone. Insecurity, we have different states doing different things. We need a regional security. Development, we need a regional strategy. Infrastructure, we need regional strategy. If we don't have a regional strategy, we don't have our coalitions working together, we don't have a different quality of political leadership, it's going to be difficult.
What can we do about recruitment for political office holders? People that will go to the House of Reps, people that will become governors, people that will go to the Senate, people that will go to the state assemblies. How can we do that and get the right crop of leaders in the Southeast to drive, this campaign of rediscovering, the Southeast?
I think civic and cultural groups are important. Ohaneze is an important entity in that. Academics and universities are important in that. Setting a different moral tone, I think, begins to help. And when you begin to set a different tone, people kind of key in. Our people know how to key in very well. It is when you have an all-comers affair that you have a problem. People now see that government matters. Go to Aba. I don't know when last you went to Aba. Now, Aba had one road. which, it's called different things at different points, from Ezeku Road to Port Harcourt Road to whatever, and then it exits the city. And many people who had property beyond CKC in Aba, going into Port Harcourt Road, Ezeku Road, by the time Odinkalu had finished his term as governor, had no value in the property anymore. People built duplexes and they could not sell them for 10 million naira. 8 million naira. They could not get buyers. The current governor has been in office for barely 2 years. Those same properties that could not go for 8 million naira are now, people are now begging to buy them for 300 million naira. What has happened? Those places that Odinkalu and Chidi and what's his name, the last one,
Bazo.
Okay, because all I remember is the one that lines up at the back. Bazo, exactly. Now, those places where they neglected now have roads, drained, have street lights, and people are wondering what exactly happened to us. Governance matters, and we can begin to recruit by also encouraging people with track records. We knew what our governors did before. Mbakwe was a lawyer who did abandoned property advocacy in Port Harcourt.
In Port Harcourt, yeah.
And he ran against Wakamo Okoro, who was the first Igbo senior advocate of Nigeria and first Igbo president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Yes? Now, in Anambra State, you had Jim Wobodo, who was an English language teacher at CKC, a former chairman of Rangers. He ran against Christian Ono, who was a lawyer and a big landowner in Kano land. Yes? These people, we knew where they came from. We knew what they did. Please, can somebody tell me?
And they had an address.
They had an address. What did Rochas Okorocha do? What was Hope Uzodinma's job? I'm sorry I'm asking questions. I'm not condemning anybody. But it is important that we ask these questions.
And if anybody has answers, they should bring it.
You see, the current governor of Enugu State, I know what he did. I know what, he's a lawyer. He was a business person. The current governor of Anambra State, I know what he did. He was a professor of economics, UNN, who did this, became chief economic advisor to the president, became CBN governor. I can track his record. The current governor of Abia State, I know what he did. So I ask these questions in good faith. When you have people who have no track record becoming your leaders, you have a problem.
How do we get the right people?
If we miss their track records, then we should correct our records and be properly informed.
Because the agitation for good representation has been on. But it takes us to where we started this conversation, the electoral process. What happens after an election and results have been declared? What the judiciary does with its constitutional responsibility.
Correct.
So how do we go about getting the right people?
Obviously, we've got to persuade the right people to make themselves available, because leadership is a voluntary process. The cost of entry into leadership positions through elections in Nigeria has vastly increased from what it was in 1999. Only the moneyed can have access now to it, and people acquire the money through different means. But the fact is, when communities decide this is whom we want, they always find a way to make it possible. And that cost of getting people beyond the threshold of entry is kind of shared amongst different people. And I do think the first thing is, can we start by identifying the kind of people whom we want to represent us, whom we want to lead us?
Do you think that Igbos are talking to themselves enough?
I don't think so yet. No. Because the question of who is Igbo enough then comes in. Okay, so you have, the Igbos of Anyamaland, for instance, and you find them in Delta North, Ikaland and all of that. And the dialogue now, or the debate as to the identity of Ikaland and the political identity and state creation, and do you need a new Anyama state, and where the borders are going to be, that kind of dialogue can be very divisive. And creating the impression that some people are more Igbo than others is itself very dangerous. It's immaterial where the Igbo person finds themselves. I think it is, is interesting because the colonialists, the Brits, exiled King Prempeh, the second of Ghana, to the Seychelles. And Prempeh went and inseminated quite a good number of Seychellois. and
he was very productive.
He was exceptionally productive. And the Ghanaians have discovered that you have a very fecund Ashanti community descended from Ashanti blue blood in Seychelles, and they have established very firm relations with they are claiming their kith and kin because they know this is the lineage. Why can't we be comfortable with our people wherever they are, wherever they find themselves? Because all these are lights in the sun.
But there's been this argument that the brothers across the Niger and, in quotes, in diaspora, say they are not Igbo. So are you going to force them to be Igbo?
But nobody forces anybody, I mean.
Yeah, because that's also a challenge.
My good friend Rotimi Amechi doesn't know where he comes from. I'm not going to tell him where he comes from.
Wike does not know too.
Wike does not know where he comes from. I'm not going to tell him where he comes from. But on the other hand, there are people who want to say we are from here. Why do we want to tell them where they are from?
So it's by choice.
It is by choice. And we've got to allow for the fact, we've got to recognize that diversity is not, the Igbo land is bigger than the Southeast. And Igbo identity is bigger than the 5 Southeast states. And we've got to be comfortable with that reality. I think that's the very first thing. At the moment, I don't think we are.
Okay.
Because if we were, the political consequences and the political benefits would be quite substantial, actually.
Are you a supporter of what some people have called the come home philosophy, return home philosophy for the Ndibo? That they are too scattered all over the place. That's also affecting, I don't know whether that's the correct, their hegemony.
The question is, where is home? Different people will answer the questions about their homes differently. But I do think that for the Igbo race, it's important, the governor of Anambra State, Professor Soludo, now speaks about a prosperous and livable homeland. And I think it's important that we take the idea of a livable homeland seriously. You want to be able to go home and relax.
Their security.
Yes.
Good governance.
Safety, security, governance, basic infrastructure. As I like to say, the most stupid person I know is the person who attends the Umunda meeting accompanied by a police officer bearing AK-47. And you see a lot of our big men.
Yeah.
You go for meeting Umunda and they are accompanied by Onye police in uniform, carrying AK-47. Or you are walking around in your village, a policeman is carrying AK-47 and following you, or you have 3-4 following you. You know you are in trouble. And if you cannot see that as a challenge to end that, then something is wrong with you. So, that idea of a livable homeland should not be negotiable.
When someone like Soludo comes with this concept of a livable homeland, does it occur to him that as one of the governors in the Southeast, that he can lead that charge? And get the other brother governors, to think in the same direction? Precisely.
I do think, but that is also part of what we've got to remind our governors. That is their primary responsibility to lead this, and to lead it through not just their steps in their respective states, but through a coordinated strategy.
Yeah, because I've heard people like Soludo say they want to make Anambra Dubai. And I'm saying, what kind of Dubai can Anambra be that is sustainable? Wouldn't it be better having a Southeast Dubai than where these states are still struggling by themselves and going into businesses that can bring back a return on investment at any appreciable time? Precisely.
So we have Onitsha Seaport. If Onitsha Seaport now is meant to work, what do? you can trade ex-Lagos, you can import ex-Onisha, right? And the goods get distributed. But how do you distribute the goods if you don't have basic infrastructure?
Good
Monorail,
roads, yeah.
no roads that work. So now, okay, so you have a Soludo doing the Amobia Agolo Oga Road, which will take you up to the boundary with Imo State in Idato, right? Why can't, if you had a regional strategy, you will then have Hope Uzodinma take that on, and the road will radiate, one into Okigwe, the other to Weri, and up to Hituboma in Mbano. The governor of Abia State takes it from there and takes it to the borders of Akwa Ibom State. You have a regional strategy right there.
And then another one goes the other way.
Another one, then of course you then have the express road that takes you into Ogu in Enugu State, through parts of Ebonyi State. And a regional strategy is within our reach, and we can finance it. We can finance it through our respective state governments and through our private enterprise. Because the Southeast, more than any other part of Nigeria, has a private enterprise economy. The question is, how do we invest? How do we get our brothers and sisters who have the money to invest in the region and convince them that the region is bankable?
They need the political class to create the enabling environment.
Precisely.
Okay. Nigeria is becoming tougher and tougher for the ordinary Nigerians. A lot of people can't pay school fees. 3 square meals is, it's a forgotten luxury. And here we are, 2 years to 2027, and all we do is the president wants to go for second term, the governors are campaigning for second term, billboards are going out, and some people say against the constitution. How do we liberate the ordinary Nigerian? Because when Buhari was there, everybody was like, this was bad enough. And then 2 years after Buhari is gone, it looks like it's worse. Is there any future?
I hate to disappoint you, but I may sound very disappointing in what I'm going to say. I blame the opposition.
The opposition?
Yes. I blame the opposition. There is no opposition. Every democracy needs an opposition. Where have they been? Tinubu changed our national anthem with Godswill Akpabio in 2 hours. Nobody said a word. There was no parliamentary opposition. There was no political opposition. Everybody just kidding. They declared emergency in Rivers State, sacked all elected officials, appointed a military administrator. No torn shirt in the National Assembly. No opposition. As I speak to you, we have 3 concurrent national budgets running. What are they saying? No opposition. Our president is about to go off for 20, God knows how many days, to different countries. Is he unemployed? Is running Nigeria such a meaningless job that our president can live in another country or in other countries for that long? What is the opposition doing? You know, if roles have been reversed and the APC were to be the opposition, a lot of the nonsense we've had happening would not happen. So my first thing is I blame opposition. Atiku, Peter Obi are the people I'm quarreling with. I'm not quarreling with Tinubu. He can mess around. But if he knows that if in messing around, his chances of getting another term will be out or will be curtailed, he will think again.
Are you saying that the way the opposition is approaching this, that it's likely that Tinubu would come back in 2027?
They have not been there to offer any alternatives or to shake him up in the last 2 years. Meanwhile, while all of this has been taking place, because they've not been around, Tinubu has taken the time to, one, plant his people in all the institutions, particularly the judiciary. Number 2, put APC people in INEC as recs and as national commissioners. Recs in most of the states are APC card-carrying members. Many of the national commissioners are APC members. The opposition did not do anything about that. What are they going to do? When these people start, you saw what happened in Edo? Governorship election, right? So what happened? They wrote up results. Judiciary validated it. because the opposition did not oppose when they were supposed to.
So what do we do? How do we get the
as long as the opposition
to do what they need to do?
As long as the opposition wimps out on its responsibility, I don't think we stand a chance.
Professor Chidi Odinkalu, I must thank you for your time and for being in our studio. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a great deal.
And that's our program for today. We'll be speaking with Professor Chidi Odinkalu, human rights activist, academic, and teacher. I'm Vin Martin Obiora, Ilo in Enugu, Nigeria. Thanks for watching.
Signature TV News.